5 years ago, I built a home server, and it's quite unique. I'm pretty sure you've never seen anything like it. If you have, I want to see proof. Now it's time to upgrade it. New disk and new memory sticks. And maybe you wonder, what is this? I think maybe it's called a strap-on, maybe not. Some kind of harness for attaching my camera. What is that for? Well, you see, you can't see my server anywhere here. It's hidden behind my cabinet. I have a secret tunnel. Nobody has seen that either. You will be the first one to see both my home server and my secret tunnel that is inside here. It's a bit dark, so I'll bring a light. First, I gotta remove these boxes. So now I can move inside here. On this side I have just a lot of storage stuff. Here on the other side I have more boxes. The last one. And then it's time to get into the inner part where the server is. Okay. Aha. And here you can see it. It's quite a narrow hallway. So what you see here on the right side is like the back wall of my cabinets. And here at the end you can see the server. Quite tight space here. And here it is. But of course I need to turn it off, and then I will remove this content here so I can extract it. Alright. Then I need to go back here. And the nice thing about this server is that it's operated using a web interface. It doesn't even have its separate keyboard or monitor attached to it. It just plugged into the network, and you use it as you would use any web service on your web browser. And the system I am using is Unraid. And I'm really happy with this system, and I can totally recommend it for this usage. I mostly use it as a NAS, a storage solution, but you can use it for so much more than that. I also have a Plex, a media server installed, and you can do a lot of stuff. Check out Unraid if you haven't heard about it. What you can see here, I have 10 disks and a total of 20 terabytes of storage, and I have now used 77.4% of it, so it's time to upgrade it. I will double it to 40. And that is also the main reason why I selected Unraid and why I think it's so great. You can extend your storage by adding new disks, and the size of the disk doesn't matter. Normally a RAID system, a NAS system, needs to have exactly the same disks all over. So if you're gonna extend it, well, then you need to replace all the disks. Here you can add just one and one disk, bigger and bigger. As price normally drops with the new equipment, you can buy bigger discs and just replace the one you have. Another thing I need to do, it says here the system has 8 gigabytes of RAM. And that's a bit strange because I've actually installed 16, so one of the memory sticks on the server are currently not working. So I want to replace them as well. But let me shut down the server. All right, I can then pull it out so I can start working on the upgrades. While I am doing that, I want to show you some footage from 5 years ago when I built the cabinet, the enclosure for it. And yes, it's a reason why I call it my Cyberpunk NAS server, because yeah, the build is pretty rough and unique. So yeah, just look at this.
I had an old PC with a side-mounted fan. Not optimal, but that's what I had. I knew I couldn't have the fan there, and I needed to make it lower to fit into the tunnel where I wanted to put it. To make room for all the discs I wanted to add to it, I decided to make it twice as wide. This is me 5 years ago. Dang, I was young and handsome back then. I started with the bottom panel, cut it in half and welded in a new piece to make it twice as wide. Then I shortened the original backplate by removing where the power supply had been, and I made a new backplate for the extended part. I shortened and reused the panel for mounting the motherboard and put it in the middle of the case. I knew already I wouldn't win any beauty contest with this build, so I found some old rusted scrap metal and fabricated a frame for the front. I reused most of the parts of the original case and added in scrap metal wherever I needed it. If you should ever try to build something like this, cannot really understand you would do that, but anyway, I think you could totally get away without welding. Here you can see me using rivets, and I'm actually putting this piece back to its original position. But I tried to weld as much as I could because I like welding and I really need the practice. And this was a perfect piece for that because I knew nobody would never gonna see this anyway. After the main chassis was built, it was time to make the side panels and the top. I will absolutely not recommend you to lower the cabinet. I had to do it because of the ceiling height of the tunnel where I wanted to put it. I didn't only needed to chop down the size of the side panels, but also move the channel or the rail system that keeps it in place and avoid it vibrating. I think it was at this moment I thought that if I had knew how much work this was, then I would probably not have started this project. And then at the same time I thought I was glad I didn't know how much work it was, because then I wouldn't have started this project. But then again, I would probably have started the project anyway. And then the cabinet is almost done. Just the backside remaining. I wanted an extra hole for another fan. Ooh, this sound really gives me the chills. And then the power supply, it's just 4 bolts there to attach it. The hole for the power supply is pretty annoyingly designed. Not that it's that complex, but why couldn't there just be a screw in each corner? And I also made a cut out in the bottom of the cabinet to have a separate airflow for the power supply. And then it was time to build the mounting for the hard disks. I thought about just buying this kind of swappable hard disk base, but I need 14 of them. I think it was just too expensive. So it will be a DIY solution here as well. And I think actually my solution is better, because I get much more airflow around the hard disks. This last part should be pretty self-explanatory. I welded on the rails that will hold the discs. I also made a front door for putting on a filter and a fan. I glued on a gasket to the cabinet to seal against the front door. And that was the last thing I recorded 5 years ago when I made the cabinet.
Ooh, yes. It's a bit heavy. Not too bad. But definitely not the most lightweight NAS server. So, there it is, 5 years later, ready for its first upgrade. One thing I didn't record 5 years ago was this mesh and this front fan. It's actually from the side panel. That's why I have riveted on a piece of metal here to cover up the side. I cut out this and moved it to the front. So the idea with this design is that air is blowing in from the front, going through the cabinet and out at the rear. Very simple airflow and very efficient. And I probably need some dust cleaning here now. Alright, and then it's time to take a look inside. First time in 5 years. All right, I can see quite a bit of dust in here as well. I know you love to watch me vacuuming, but we gotta move on. It's time to focus on what's inside this cabinet. And believe it or not, this is my 10 years old PC with just some few upgrades. The motherboard on my PC had 6 ports for attaching hard drives. So I bought this PCI card to get 8 extra ports. You can find used cards like this from eBay or from Amazon. I think I paid around $50 for this one. In addition, I also bought this 10 gigabit networks card. That's optional. What's on board this motherboard, typically on older PC, is 1 gigabit networks card. They are a bit slower. And I also bought this extra fan because these 2 cards became quite hot. So I added this one. Also, this extra fan on the other side, I bought extra. Didn't cost much. All the hardware for this server, except the hard drives, was less than $200 for me. But the operating system, Unraid, is not free though. This version with support for unlimited number of disks costs from $100 to $250 depending on the version you buy. But it's totally worth it because that's where the magic happens. Unraid makes it possible for you to not only repurpose your old PC, but also to repurpose your old hard drives. I took the disks I had in my old PC and I took all the other disks I had laying around from some external USB drives. This is my first old NAS, and this is my not so old NAS that had 2 drives in it, and I could repurpose all of these. Maybe you are a bit skeptical about the idea of using old hard drives. Can they be trusted? What if one of them breaks down because of age? Well, Unraid has a solution for that as well. I did buy 2 brand new drives to be used as parity drives. They are for safety only, dedicated to store redundant data as a constant running backup. So I can have total disk failure on any of these disks, replace the disk with a new one, and be able to recreate the data from the parity disk. I can actually have failure on 2 disks at the same time and still recover all data, since I am using 2 parity disks. What about the transfer speed? Saving to all hard drives, could that slow down the system? Well, I did buy 2 fast SSDs as well to be used for caching, and it enables super fast data transfer to the NAS. Unraid takes care of this as well, moves data automatically from the cache down to the older disk for permanent storage of the data. Here at the top I have my 2 SSDs, the cache disks, and at the bottom I have my 2 parity disks, 4 terabyte disks. And in between I have my 10 data storage disks. These 4 are 1 terabytes, oldest one. These 4 are 2 terabytes, and these 2 are also 4 terabytes. But just in case you didn't know, you probably know, but just to be sure, when I am storing data from my PC or Mac or whatever, Unraid makes sure that all of these 10 disks looks like just 1 disk, having 20 terabyte capacity. I can store my data however I want in any folder I want. Unraid takes care of where the file actually is put, distributes the file around the disks. But now it's time for me to upgrade this. These 4 1 terabyte disks, the oldest one, are to be replaced with my new 8 terabyte drives. Actually not new, I bought them secondhand. They are 1 year old and I got them for less than half the price. So still keeping the budget build here, keeping the cost down. And the total cost, including my new disk, that means I will have 56 terabyte in total, roughly now have cost me $1,000. 12,000 Norwegian kroner. If I was to buy, for instance, a 12-bay Synology with this amount of storage, it would be, here in Norway, approximately 50,000 Norwegian kroner, almost 5,000 US dollars. So I would say this is a bargain. And actually this server can be upgraded to whatever disk size you can put in here. I think 30 terabytes disks are coming up these days. 24 terabytes are typically the biggest one you can get today. So upgrading this to 240 terabyte is totally possible. It's just to replace the disk drives. And that is exactly what I will be doing now. And it's a very simple process. But first, I want to replace the memory sticks because one of them is not working. So let's see if my new memory sticks works better. And that was a pretty easy fix. And my computer should be repaired. Although you're not really never repairing a computer. You're just replacing parts until it works again. It's almost the same as when you have your car on service. Nobody really repairs anything anymore. They just figure out what part's most likely damaged and replace it. My new memory sticks should hopefully work, and now I can turn on. By the way, I could mention, since it's a bit cumbersome to crawl into my tunnel, the original button here that I have put on the front is not easy accessible, so I just added a long cable cord hooked into the original button. So now I can press this and my computer or server is starting. The startup really takes a minute or two, but by video editing magic I can already sign in. So I will go to the dashboard and take a look. Yes, 16 gigs of RAM. Perfect. I can also see a new version has appeared. I'll upgrade a bit later, but that's nice with the Unraid. You constantly get improved features. Very nice platform, I would say. But then it's time to start replacing the disks. I have identified disk number 9 as the one I want to replace first, so I'm now setting it unmounted. More or less telling Unraid that I'm not going to be using it anymore. Then I actually need to start up the array and confirm that I will start it without this disk. I don't know these procedures by heart, so I'm just reading the manual here. And the YouTube videos and the community makes good tutorials as well. Now you can see the disk number 9 says not installed, and a lot of warnings here now because I'm missing a disk. So then it's just to shut down the system and replace the disk in the cabinet. This is probably not a project for anyone. You need to be a bit tech savvy. You need to like to tinker around with both hardware and software. But it's not that difficult either. Most of this is just plugging in components and building the cabinet as I did. Of course, it can be done much simpler than that. But if you would like to have a nice and not nice, if you would like to have an ugly but unique cabinet, then you can do something like this. And now to remove this hard disk, it's just to unplug two cables, the power cable and the data cable back here. And yeah, here it is. All disks have a serial number, and Unraid shows the serial number, so it's easy to identify the correct disks. I will now just unscrew the brackets and replace it, start up the system and do some small configuration, and then Unraid does all the magic. This is absolutely a project I would recommend if you have an old PC, have a lot of old hard drives, you like to tinker around with hardware and software, probably some more criteria there, but give it a try. Or maybe you know someone who have the right qualification. Make sure they know about Unraid. I even signed up for affiliate link, so if you want to support me and my channel, you can actually buy Unraid by using a link in the description. That would be great. All right, the rebuild part of this. When I have replaced the disk, then Unraid needs to move the data over. That takes quite some hours, and I need to do this 4 times because I'm replacing 4 disks. Yeah, I think if you have any questions, want to see a follow-up how it goes, drop me a comment. But I think this will be it for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. Love to see you back later. Bye bye.